So the question that I asked was what candle pattern was here. So let me just zoom in for a second. So this was a doji, and then after the doji was a bearish engulfing. And you may have got caught up and said, oh, there was a harami. The thing is, there was, yeah, I guess technically what happened here was very interesting. We went from a harami cross, okay, based on this, which is a doji in part, to then being wiped out by a bearish engulfing. So this had multiple things telling us that the upside trend was slowing down. On top of all of that, we had a minor divergence. So if I focus in on just the RSI power zones, we had a minor bearish divergence. Do my advanced RSI power zone students, do you see that? Type a Y in the chat. And my candlestick students, do you see how we had 3 bars in a row telling us that things might be slowing down to the upside? Yep, I'm on TradeStation 10 here. All right, so for CVS, back for a Centra here. She asked about the long-term outlook. Well, I'm not going to go too long-term because we're in a little crazy world now, but let's come to the daily chart and see what we can use to help navigate what's coming up. So essentially, we are still correcting lower off the February 8th high, and the most significant base was back from last summer. Along the way, we have a couple supports that I would pay attention to. So you might be wondering, Hima, how are you picking these high and low levels? Okay, this comes to my view of price action centered around my GAN approach in what's called drives. And I think that's even in the book. So let's see. Yes, I have my copy of my book here. Who here has my GAN book? Type B for book if you have ordered or gotten and read your GAN book. Okay. So in this book, I'm even going to go to the chapter. In my GAN trading patterns course, I go deeper on this, but in the book, I teach you about this concept of drives. And I'm just trying to remember where it was. So it's in one of the early chapters, all right? And so when you are looking at the market, you look at how price action is moving in directional surges, okay? Like a surfer is going to go for the big wave that moves in one direction to get the best ride, right? He's not worried about all the little ripples in between. So that's what I'm looking at here. Barry, you can just go ahead and shoot an email. So I'm going to just put this in the chat. Just shoot an email to support@HimaReddy.com, and my team can help you get access to the book since you're a tribe member. It's still technically on pre-order. It's not officially out, sold anywhere else. We are doing it in-house. So you get the best price and the best bonuses and everything with us. All right, so look at how on CVS we are breaking below this low. Everybody see that? We may close below it today, we may not. So Centra, you asked about this market. I really think we're at a very important point here. We had a gap down. We're on a weakening RSI, but we're at a key level. So we got to see how price action behaves today. If it pushes below this January 24th low, the next important support I see here is at 96.57, this old top. Again, the GAN concept. Okay, so Centra, does that help you out? All right. I forgot to just reset my timer for the eyeball break. Oh, thanks, Harmon. I appreciate that. It says best purchase of 2021 under €100. Okay, yeah. Try to do my best to keep things so that you guys can access them. I'll tell you the thing that was a challenge in the beginning was the shipping out to other parts of the world. Then we started to realize that there are other ways we could use printers in Europe and things like that. So anyway, the second edition book is what I'm referring to, Bobby. So the first edition, okay, so this is the second edition. The first edition exists, but it sells for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I can't even get more copies of my own book. That is how ridiculous it is because it's 10 years old. So, and the publisher who printed that, Financial Times Press, like a legit publisher, they just printed a certain amount and that's it. And I tried to negotiate to print more, but they weren't interested. So I published this in-house. So I'm talking about the second edition. Do you see that here? Second edition. Okay, let me move on so I make sure I get more of your questions answered. Accenture, we covered you for CBS. Now let's look at NVIDIA. All right, so I have some leftover analysis here, so I'm just going to ride with it. Look how helpful this was to be ready for the short-term high, this little minor pretty point. And since then, lower back in the January 24th range. I would now focus resistance to this high is most recently significant and to this low. So we are testing this January 24th range on NVIDIA. And yeah, it's a lot like the situation like everything else. If we continue to maintain these levels, and if today's recovery is actually a little stronger, I think we could get back towards where we were in mid-Feb, but I don't think that that alone suggests that we are, in the clear. In fact, I think there's a new trend line I could draw here. Oh my goodness. You guys, I didn't have that lined up in my brain. I didn't even know it would be that good. Do you see this? Do you see how helpful this trend line is on NVIDIA? My God. Now you might say, Hima, why did you pick this second high? It comes back to how I look at price directional moves. It comes back to the drives. So my eyes, with 22 years experience, I look at all this and it flashes through, okay, here's the little directional moves. Here's how the little ones fit into a bigger piece, right? And my eyes looked at this and said, okay, this was a clear move. This was a recovery. This was a move. This was a recovery. Please type a Y if you guys understand why I picked this high, because of how I see the drives this way. Okay. So that's a very helpful line. So Jesse, if you're trading NVIDIA, I would add that trend line on. So specifically the dates are November 22nd and December 28th. How about we look at, we'll finish out these requests, but I really want to look at oil because that's going to be an interesting story depending on what continues here. But let's look at LI ACF for Barry really quick. So we are holding, I don't know this stock well. So, okay. So we had a long-term uptrend. We are correcting on this market and coming back to recent oversold levels. Advanced RSI power zone students, you know this, right? Historical hold, relative zone, looking for the last time we had activity on that particular security. So that's helpful. So this, Barry, means that there's potentially room for things to bottom out, but it's too early to say in the monthly chart. On the weekly chart, also still too early to say, though, because we are sort of hanging out in what's called this price probe, right? There's buyers that took the market up to these levels. And when we're coming back, buyers might still be hanging out there. I used to say living, but living sounds very permanent. So I'm going to start saying hanging out. Okay. When I say buyers are hanging out here or sellers are hanging out there, guys, that role will change. Those buyers will leave. Okay. Those sellers will leave. That's how markets have trends that unfold in highs and lows. I just want you to type a Y in the chat if you understand. When I say buyers are here, it's for now. It's not forever. I wish I knew where buyers and sellers were on the chart forever. I'd be, I'd probably still be teaching you guys because I love doing it, but I'd probably be doing it from my 15-bedroom mansion or something. I don't know. So let's look at where we are here. So I don't really know if this is going to be a useful trend line. I just wanted to kind of check it out moderately. Let's take this down to the daily time frame quick. All right. So on the weekly, we have a bigger picture price probe. And on the daily, we have a more recent price probe. And this is holding all of them. So we are at support for this market. I would really carefully watch what happens to the January 24th low. Guys, I know I sound a little bit like a broken record, but can you see how, the markets have a lot of forces that impact them in similar ways, right? There's a lot of things that right now today are at this, what I call inflection point. Okay. I'm not just saying it to sound like a record that's broken. I'm trying to really evaluate each individually. They're just coming up with similar results. Please type a Y if you see that. Lots of markets have weakened recently and are potential to bottom. All different things. Okay. All right. So let's finish out before I go back to the list here. Let's look at corn for Renee and see where it's at. Okay. So corn had this many months consolidation, then blasted higher last fall and has stayed up and away, surging higher this week. So her question is, or his question, I'm not sure because it's spelled R-E-N-E. My little French that I know tells me that could be a guy's name too. So their question, I'll just make it simple, is there a weekly or monthly strategy? Well, if you're not already long on corn right now, I don't know how many more opportunities you get. If you are long on corn, then you would want to be monitoring each prior week's range and looking at the lows bars, right? If you have a long-term position. So let's take this down to the daily chart. Because see how on the weekly, guys, there's room for it to run up into the bull resistance power zone, but it's not at the best place to add new positions. This is good for everybody. Please type a Y if you understand that. Corn is healthy to hold on to a long, but not in a great place for a new long because we're running out of upside room a little on the weekly chart here. Okay. Now on the daily chart, we're even closer to the bull resistance power zone. Doesn't mean it shows over, but here's how I would play it. Okay. So here's a little lesson in trade management. Let's just say you are like a rock star and you had a, not even a rock star. Let's just say you were watching this breakout. Okay. And let's say you saw all of this and you were like, you know what? The market is breaking higher. And again, this is in retrospect. I have this price probe support here. I have a double dip back into the bull support power zone. So let's just say that you got long around 595 here. Okay, we're just going to practice trade management for a quick minute. Everybody type a Y if you understand. We are practicing if we got long on corn March at 595. Okay. Now, that's the case. How would you manage it? Well, everyone should have that in their systems, right? In their trade management system. In my swing trading lab stock trading plan, you could take what I have there. Again, that's available for those members. I don't just have generic trading plans I give out by design, because I think that's a very, very dangerous thing. It's like giving somebody a manual to fly plane and then just giving them the keys to the plane. You would never do that, right? You would give them lessons. You would give them guidance. You would shadow them and mentor them as they took their first flight, right? People don't just go flying planes because they read a book or read a flying plan. Same thing with trading. So I'm just saying this as an example. I need you guys to understand that this would be different depending on your account size, your risk reward, and everything else. Okay, please type a Y for me if you understand that. That I'm going to go through a practice trade management here, but it's not one size fits all. Okay. So if you had gone based on logical analysis levels here, I'm going to give myself an extra 5 minutes to finish this out, and then I'll eyeball break. And if you guys still have questions, I'll stick around a little longer. I know I put this down for 1 hour, but there's a ton of you here, which I appreciate. And you guys are asking good questions. If you have a few more, I'm happy to do them. When I look at this, I see it got a little complex, so I'm not sure how much I love it. Actually, let me rephrase that. Let me go to the weekly chart. Yeah, so there is a little bit more of a complex type of cycle that I would do here. Again, what are these cycles? How am I determining them? How to use them? All in the loss forecasting system. But can you see how this would have helped you be prepared for the magnet that was pulling on price and time February 11th? Please type a Y if you see that. The forecast, the end of that line was met. Okay, now it got there a little bit early, backed off. There's a little volatility around it. And along the way unfolded a new little miniature cycle. So once you were up here, you would either cover from profit if you have multiple positions, or along the way, you may have been raising your stop based on trade management. From here, another more classic sort of pretty point unfolded. Useful to be ready for coming up into the 670 area, right? And so if you were still long here, again, you didn't take any other actions, you were still long, even if you were kind of shaving off some of your positions, I would recommend your stop being down here below this February 22nd low. This is a 2-bar low trailing stop, and it's below a Gann old top. Okay, so does that help you out, Renee, for corn? Does it help everybody out in terms of a practice trade management? Please type Y in the chat. This is not a sit back and relax group coaching live. This is I'm going to engage you, because that is how I know that it's sinking in and you're actually learning. I don't need to do this for me. I know this stuff. You guys are the ones learning, right? Okay. Fantastic. I have finished the whole initial list of requests, so I see a few more coming through. Guys, if you have any questions, you can email my team at support@HimaReddy.com. That's the best way to follow up with any questions you have. Okay, I'm just here alone. Anna is busy with the team with other stuff, so there's nobody here to capture email addresses. So if you have a question, definitely reach out to support@HimaReddy, and I promise you we'll get back to you soon. Okay, now again, I do have some team members literally in other parts of the world who are being affected by the current situation in Russia, Ukraine. If you missed me saying this earlier, our guy Alex is there. He's went to a bomb shelter. We haven't heard from him since then. I'm knock on wood sure he's fine, but that's just very alarming. I have team members in the Philippines as well. And I'm not so worried, obviously, from a tactical ground point of view, but that whole side of the world, there's lots of things that affect energy, right? Sanctions could affect people's ability to have heating, cooling, electricity. Like, this is some serious stuff. Not just because it's a war in a place that has a lot of war. It's because of the global impact. So I'm doing this as a help to you guys, and I hope it's being valuable. Okay. All right. So let me now let you guys know what else I have. So let me take a quick break and I will stick around. Okay. I know I initially said 30 minutes, an hour, but we're going to stick around. So let me stretch my eyeballs so everybody else can do it with me. I'm going to stop my video for a moment. I'm standing up gently. I'm not getting any younger, but I just say that because I know we have traders of all ages here. So if you are allowed to stand, if you're sitting without hurting yourself, go ahead. Or if you're standing and you're allowed to sit without hurting yourself, go ahead. I like to roll my shoulders, and sometimes I like to use the backs of my hands to rub my eyes a little, not the front. Not your palm. Palms are dirty and gross unless you wash them all the time. Back of your hand, back of your palm. It's nice to press it on the eyebrows, especially after a few hours of being at the computer. Now I'm going to just rest my voice for 10 seconds and look out the window, and I'll be back. Okay. I'm back, and I remember to put on my timer. So if you guys still have questions, I will hang out here a bit, right? Okay, so continue on if you would like to ask questions. So JP, I see your question about natural gas.